All right, guys. So one of the biggest criticisms that I see from the left, particularly the left-wing media, in regards to the right, is that the right is too focused on the culture war, right? That the Republican Party uses the culture war as a scapegoat for a lack of policy, right? That's what the leftist media says. Now, I think that there is some degree of truth to that in regards to, I think, the culture war being a little bit too much of a focus versus actual policy, right? However, I will argue that the culture war is affecting policy. Okay, so I think the culture war is important, right? I think there is definitely some aspects of it that are overblown and people get a little bit too upset about, but in regards to the culture war and more specifically race, right? Because that is a part of the culture war. I think this is a big deal because there's a lot of policies that are being proposed and pushed based off this idea of a systemically racist country, right? That black people are at a disadvantage because the systems are set up against us, and therefore it is harder for us to succeed. And there's been policy made that is supposed to give black people a leg up. But, as a black person in this country, I don't particularly think that these policies that the liberals are pushing are helpful. Matter of fact, I think that they don't help, and I think that they are, quite honestly, disrespectful, because a lot of these policies tend to treat black people as if we are dumb and stupid and that we need to be coddled and that we need help in order to perform to the same level that everybody else performs at, right? And to me, in my opinion, I do find that to be disrespectful. Okay. I also think that the argument for systemic racism is not really a serious argument, because this concept, right, that the system is systemically racist against black people is never applied to other contexts where black people obviously dominate, right? Like, for example, athletics, right? Black people, for the most part, in my opinion, are dominant over culture, right? There are a lot of aspects in our society in which black people do dominate, okay? And nobody's ever asking, why is it that more white athletes are not represented in sports despite being a majority of the population? Nobody ever asked that, right? But that question's always asked when it comes to politics, when it comes to corporate America, when it comes to academia, but it's never asked in spaces where black people are dominating. So that means that they're not really serious about quote unquote systemic racism, because these instances in which black people do dominate, right, certain arenas, it doesn't fit their narrative, right? It doesn't fit the narrative of systemic racism. So I don't think they're being intellectually honest in regards to the conversation about systemic racism, right? And as you can see, the story that I have here today is that, a professor has compiled a ranking of the whitest law schools and recommends eliminating excess whiteness by ending standardized testing. Okay, so let me read that again. They're ranking the whiteness of law schools and recommending eliminating whiteness by ending standardized testing. Ending standardized testing. Haven't we heard this stuff before? Okay, so let's read here. A professor emeritus at the University of Dayton compiled a report ranking law schools by the percentage of white first-year students and encouraged schools to eliminate excess whiteness by ending the use of standardized tests and admissions, and uploaded presentation showed. Professor Emeritus Vernellia R. Randall presented the report titled 2021, the Whitest Law School Report, during a virtual event on March 4th. The report examined how white law schools are and how much, quote, excess whiteness needed to be trimmed in order for schools to be racially representative, according to a video of the event uploaded to Randall's site entitled racism.org. Jesus Christ, man. These people are literally obsessed with race. Okay? And basically what they're saying is that excess whiteness needs to be trimmed in order for it to be more racially representative, right? They're obsessed with this idea that everything in our society has to be organized based off of the population and representation, right? So 13% of every company has to be black folks, right? But they never apply that when it comes to athletics. Because if they apply that when it comes to athletics, then a lot of black people wouldn't be in the NFL, wouldn't be in the NBA. Okay? So my question to these liberals that want to push this type of policy is, how far are you willing to go with this? Because if you're not willing to implement this representation in all arenas of society, then you're the one who's the racist. Because it seems to me like you're trying to be racist against those who you feel have an advantage in society, aka white people. What you're also saying is that black people are not smart enough to do well on standardized tests. They can't perform better than white people. Therefore, we have to lower the standards, or in this case, get rid of the standard, period. Just get rid of it. Because the poor black folks, they can't perform as good as white folks. Again, guys, this to me is the hidden racism from the liberals, which I, take the Malcolm X approach on this, which is, to me, is a lot more dangerous, right? It's a lot more dangerous than overt racism, which is why I prefer my racism overt. Okay, I prefer my racism overt. What I don't like is covert racism. Racism in which, you act like you're trying to help us, but at the same time, what you're really doing is trying to exert control over us through really disrespecting our intellectual capabilities and our abilities to think and our abilities to compete, right? And, somebody like, Clarence Thomas, I remember reading about him and how, he was negatively affected by this type of affirmative action. The law firm that he tried to work for after school basically didn't take him serious. They didn't take him serious because they was like, oh, you're a black candidate. Therefore, you must have had a leg up, and that your grades, like your degree, isn't a serious degree, right? That is the repercussions of this type of coddling that super liberals want to do for black people. This type of coddling makes it so other groups believe that black people are inherently stupid, that we need help, and if we do reach a position in society, if we do become successful, that we only became successful because some government entity or school or whatever gave us a handout. We only became successful because somebody gave us more help than they gave to somebody else. That's literally the type of mentality that is created from these types of policies. And to me, it really makes me mad when I see stuff like this, because quite honestly, it really is disrespectful. It really is an insult on our intelligence. So as you can see here, here's the slides, right? This is guys' weight rankings, 2021 excess whiteness, right? They got their ranks here. Whitest law schools. Again, how racist does this sound, guys? Look at this. They have a rankings and point system based off how much you decrease your whiteness or how much you increased your whiteness. This stuff is sad. This is really sad, This is what we're doing right now. These are some of the recommendations that this guy recommended. Don't use standardized tests and admission used to design an individualized education process. Change legal education so that no longer designed to sort and eliminate, moving away from norm reference grading. Set specific goals and deadlines for eliminating excess whiteness. Change ABA accreditation rules that have a desperate racial impact. It just kind of reminds me of when, Joe Biden said that poor kids are just as smart as white kids, right? He said, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black, right? He said that, Hispanics were, a more diverse community, right? In terms of thinking, how they think about stuff, issues. Okay, he said that, he implied that black people don't know how to use computers to look up how to get a COVID vaccination. This is low key or high key what the left thinks about black folks. And they're obsessed with racism, but at the same time pushing more racism, creating more racism. And it's really sad that this is where we're at in society, in which, this is what people are trying to do. And then the left wants to get mad because, oh, well, the right is obsessed with the culture war. Well, rightfully so, because policy is coming out of the culture war. And as long as policy has been made out of the culture war, yeah, it's definitely a big issue. It's a war that's worth fighting, right? So let me know what you guys think about this. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.